Good afternoon. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. I was getting ready to go out and do some stoning, work on the stone for the front, around the front window, and we had a sudden thunderstorm come up with quite heavy rains, and we had rain during the night, so everything's going to start perking up in the garden some, and I won't have to be dealing with watering pots and extra things, or thinking about it anyway. It'll be extra muddy around where I step in to do the stoning, but I'm so grateful for the rain. We really didn't have any this summer. Oh, God bless the rain. I want to. This is the feast, the day that we honor our guardian angels, and angels in general, but especially the guardian angels. Yesterday was the archangels. So I was remembering a favor that the angel did me not long ago. Well, in fact, it was just last week I was reminded of why my left hand, especially in through here, my thumb and this whole area here, got so horrifically painful in the night. And has continued to off and on at night usually. Just as my knee had ballooned up and gotten terrible, where I'd had the knee replacement, which is never small, it's always large, but it has fibrotic tissue that's hardened around it. But it was excruciating. In fact, that was a week ago this morning. And it was a signal then of these symptoms of post-septic syndrome. I didn't know it. I went and got checked at ER, for those of you who didn't see my video on it, for septic shock recurrence. But I had no infection. And the doctor wanted to do all other kinds of tests that were, chasing down rabbit holes, really, with nothing in it. And I knew. So I wasn't very polite with him. I lost patience and had to get very firm and leave, say I was leaving, and did, because there's no sense. I know arachnoiditis and he did not. And arachnoiditis does a lot of this, signals, pain, radiating different areas, but there was no infection, so I didn't have septic shock, recurrent of it. But I got home and I thought, it's just so strange. And the next day, or maybe it was even later that night, the horrible taste in my mouth and fatigue, all this, I thought, well, I read further then on recurrence of septic shock and the odd symptoms I was having. And further down it mentioned a post-septic syndrome. That's all the symptoms except you don't have the infection. And now, because it's ongoing, the taste isn't as horrible anymore. And I'm trying to adapt. I've prayed to adapt. That's another, we should always ask God and ask our angels to help us adapt to new illnesses and things that are going to be chronic. Because I read about this post-septic syndrome. And it tends, those who do get it, not all get it who've had septic shock or sepsis, but then it's post-sepsis syndrome, but this is post-septic syndrome since I had septic shock. And it might be with me for the duration. So I kept thinking it would, leave, maybe come back another time, in a year or two, but no. So the dear Lord has, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away, the Lord takes away, and the Lord gives. Praise be the name of the Lord. That's what Job said. And it's a good line to remember. Praise be the name of the Lord. And always thank God, no matter what befalls us, because He has a reason for our sufferings. And never have I learned so much as when I suffer or have trials. So it's really a blessing when we can view it as God views suffering. He does not view it as something horrible and awful and as a punishment to us. It's no punishment. It's a gift. But it seems warped even if someone speaks like that of it. And isn't a masochist, doesn't have a psychological sickness like hypochondriacs or masochists who want to harm themselves, want to have trials, etc., and in an unhealthy way. Some saints asked for suffering in the past, but I think that's pretty much known. Don't do that. That is really presumptuous to ask for suffering. It's very prideful to even think that we can handle it, that we would ask for it. So no, God brings what sufferings He wills or wants for us, and knows that will help us or prevent us from some kind of a mistake or get us out of a situation in the only way that He can. It's a tool. For God, it's a tool. Useful. And a means. I've got to close a window. Be right back. Goodness sakes, this is really storm puppies. I better, I'll mop this window sill up a little bit here and there. Don't want that board to get bad. There we go, got it. So, we'll get back to talking to my friends online, won't I? Talk about suffering and talk about our angels. So our angels really help us in times of trial, and always doesn't have to be a trial. But the angel will comfort us, will be our companion, teach us, help guide, help us in our lives to love and to praise God. So I was a week ago when my hand really flared up in the night, and I was awake with it. It was throbbing and swelling up, and I thought, what on earth? Then I remembered the first morning of ICU after I nearly died 3 months ago, and had the septic shock. But I didn't remember it back then, but I did this a week ago in the night. That when I was on the island, I had gotten a stem, a plant stem, echinacea stem, because it was spring, but I was taking the dead stems out from the fall before of the echinacea plants, and a splinter went into my thumb, right in here, and of the left hand. And that was maybe, I think it was a Friday, and by Sunday, late Friday, I think, late afternoon, I recall where it was, even on the property in the island. And now I remember, was reminded. Well, who reminded me? Who reminds us of things? Well, our angels do. They're always working on our behalves with us, guiding, helping, teaching, supporting, protecting, and all of that. So by Sunday night, my thumb was all swollen up. It looked like it would explode off the end. And I didn't know, what, I figured, well, it's infected, but I thought, this is strange, how it would get so bad so fast, because I'd tried to get the splinter out myself with tweezers and a needle and things. And so I sent a phone photo of it to a friend in North Carolina, who sent it to her RN daughter in, I think it was Indiana. And then the daughter had told her mother, who was in North Carolina, who texted me and said, Carrie says, you need to get to ER. You need to get to ER. And it was late at night, and by morning it was really bad. And I sent her an update photo, and she went through the process and said, "Oh, Carrie says go now, go now." And so I did. I went, go to ER. She said, go to ER. So I did and got there. It was morning. Got to the ferry and drove over to this hospital, small hospital, very small, in Tacoma. And I'd never been there before, but I'd passed it on the way to the ferry a lot, often. So by the time I got there, I was getting goofy, sort of delirious. And they recognized, they saw my thumb, and they got me right in, which was very kind of them, and got me on an IV of antibiotics. And it just so happened, that a hand surgeon had been called in earlier to do something, stitches or something on an injured hand or cut hand. And he was going to leave, but there I am. So, what were the graces of a hand surgeon there? So he went to work on my hand and got more and more frustrated, but in a good way. He was very kind, but really, could not get that splinter out. It was very deep, and there was so much infection. It was so swollen up. And he had an IV drip going on me. And he said, I may just have to hospitalize you and do a surgery on this tomorrow, and have you anesthetized and do a surgery, because he says, I can't get this out. I just can't get it out. Well, fortunately, I think it was early May, and my birthday was in April, and I had just turned 65, and by grace period was able to get onto Medicare after so many years of no insurance, after I'd lost my job back in 87. So this would have been maybe 8 years ago. So it was a good 30 years or more. Probably 35 years, 37 years that I went without insurance. And all of a sudden that having to go to that ER was the beginning of more things that would happen that cost money. And that I would have been in big trouble, big financial trouble, because I was coming down to the last bit. So God really provides for us. When things happen to us that were no fault of our own, we just have to keep going, pray our way through and keep going, and God will work things out. He'll work things out. The timing of it was amazing. So he was saying, he says, I think I'm going to have to give up. He said, he says, well, I'll try one more time. And I thought, oh my goodness, pray and ask my guardian angel to help this doctor get it out. Because I didn't want to be in the hospital, even though I had the insurance. I didn't want it to be an ordeal. I needed to get back to the island. I had left things undone that needed to be finished, that were, couldn't just wait. I think I'd started painting some stuff, and everything, would be stopped. And so no one knew, all that. It was, I just had the one church couple that were starting to bring me communion, but other than that, or maybe this was before I even knew them, or before they'd started to open up a little more to help me. I think it was before the priest even had anyone bring me communion. So, because he didn't want me in Mass, and he didn't want to come. I'd asked him to bless the house. I'd asked the priest before. They wouldn't, so I got the Russian Orthodox monk up the road. There were only 2 or 3 in this little monastery, Russian Orthodox, and he came and blessed it. And wow, what a difference it made as far as odd things happening, creepy things, demonic type stuff in the house. So I prayed, asked my guardian angel, help this surgeon get this out. And as soon as I prayed it, it wasn't but maybe 30 seconds later, he says, I can't believe it. I got it out. I got it out. And he held it up. He says, look at that thing. That's a 1/2 inch long. And there it was. So, I had to get it all wrapped, and it was on a splint, and I was told I couldn't do any work for a week. I had to really take it easy. Because he says, you are on the verge of sepsis. He says, I'm surprised it didn't become full-blown sepsis for you. And I had to be on antibiotics, oral antibiotics then for a couple of weeks or longer, maybe 3 weeks. So I'd get the stitches out later, and just really God provided in miraculous ways. And my guardian angel, though, I knew, what were the odds? It was like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Within 30 seconds and a minute, he had it out when he was going to give up, because he says it's getting too difficult. I'm having to go in too deep and can't find it, and too much tissue and swelling and infection in there. And so our guardian angels, and I don't often enough think of my guardian angel. I have been abusive to my guardian angel in that regard, neglectful. And on this day, I'm apologizing, asking my guardian angel to forgive me, and going to start asking a lot and and showing gratitude to my angel. I'm going to ask my angel to help me with Lovey, to help get him so that he doesn't pull so much and, act up when he's on leash and things. And not, help him to calm down some. Help me train him. In other words, I've tried, but I need divine help. I need the help of my guardian angel. Our guardian angels will do anything that we ask that has good purpose and benefit. And it's a benefit to Lovey. If he would calm down, people would like him better. They don't only one little boy, he's 12, he's sort of small for 12. And they walk by, he and his mom and dad and his younger sister who's 9, or maybe 8, and keep sort of track of my progress on the front of the house. And they were by on their bikes. If I posted that video I was doing, that was the commotion going on. I think I did. Maybe I posted that one. I don't know. But they're lovely people, and Lovey stood full up. His face was with the little boy's face when he was fully stood. Hands on the boy's shoulder, licking him, and the boy was just loving it because he encouraged it. And Lovey, I've heard that some golden doodles instinctive like to stand up and put their arms around people's waists, larger people, adults, and hug. And he's done that since he was like 3 months old. He loved to try to hug people, stand up and hug. I didn't know if he saw someone like at Home Depot hugging, because you can take dogs into Home Depot. I don't anymore. I don't dare. He's just hard to handle when he's doing that. They love people. And I thought I had him trained from getting up on people, but he was right. I looked back because I was getting Mercy in and trying to get him in, and he was on his leash, on the end of it, just standing up, and that little boy was just thrilled to pieces that he was getting hugs and kisses from this dog. And thankfully, and the mother thought it was so sweet and all, and it could have been the opposite. Most people don't like that. But I'm going to ask my angel. My angel is Beth, and I have video, but it might be on my other site. And I can't seem to figure out how to get it transferred onto this particular site. But it would be under the Catholic Hermit or a Catholic Hermit. And it tells you the story of how I found out when I was first Catholic that we truly do have guardian angels assigned to us in this lifetime. And I know from my dad and his passing, and when he was going to heaven, it had progressed. After he had died, it's about 6 months of earth time. But it could, on the other side, there's no time. God is timeless. So I can only judge from earth time how long, when I was shown my dad progressed and in fullness of light, but his angel was walking him through, over, as a signal, as a sign to me, an image, a metaphor of sorts in the vision of him going to heaven, my dad. He had already been deceased from this earth, but he went through his progression in about 6 months of our time. My mother was quite a bit longer in her progression. If I can trust even now, the image. And she was in light, such light. So I'm sure, but I did not see her guardian angel with her. But I think God wanted me to know that our guardian angels are with us until we actually have divine union. And that would make sense. We no longer need their assistance. So they're with us here and until we enter heaven itself, not just die. So that was a wonderful thing to know, that we go through our progression on the other side with our angels also, at least from my understanding, from that experience. So here's the other thing that happened yesterday. I became worried about Dr. H. I had thought, I had insulted him because he'd gotten involved in this thing called the super patch. And he had bought in to the company and became like part of the sales. They make these wild promises of, all the money you're going to make selling these super patches. He didn't care about the money. He's got money. He's very successful. Life, he's probably 40 years now, clinical psychologist, and he'd earlier been a school counselor, school psychologist. So he went back and got his PhD and started his own practice. Very successful. People come from other areas to have sessions with him. He's very wise, very good. He's excellent in clinical hypnotherapy and a multitude of therapies to try with people. And he's great healing hearts and minds. He has a gift for what he does. But he became so wanting to be able to heal people physically. Like me, for example, and other of his clients. And I haven't been a client of his for years, but we've remained friends all these years because I think the supernatural element, he's interested in that also. And he's more adept in the paranormal than you would find anywhere. I mean, it's like God put him and me together in this small town in Southern California and then allowed my inner life to blow up practically, mushroom, because there was someone there. And I was seeing someone else. My children were seeing him, but he's the one I called when a friend told me that I was very different and everyone knew it, but I didn't. And that they loved me anyway, etc. But they didn't have things like I had. I assumed up until I was 35, everyone, not quite 35, maybe it was, that everyone had these experiences. I guess I was 34. And, but no. So, and they're spiritual experiences. It's nothing to do with New Age. So, New Age people didn't understand it. So, Dr. H has been a friend, and it grieved me that he had become evidently dissatisfied with what is really a greater gift of healing, to heal the mind and the heart, the emotions and the mind, than it is for bodily healing. But I couldn't convince him, and he sent me free some of these super patches to try. Well, I just sent them back with a note. This isn't you. Your gift is in this other greater area. It's you're iconic for it. You're gifted. And why? God is the one who heals or doesn't heal. And because gimmicks and things, I had researched the super patch. I red flagged when he even talked about it on the phone. He was so excited. And I thought, oh no, he's not. He's gotten into another thing, because he used to try to get me to try different things. And some even verged on, one was some lady had some gimmick and people were buying into it. If you got five, you had to have 5 friends. It had to be 5. It was very sort of superstitious seeming. It could be anywhere in the country, and that they would all focus on me and my spine, for example, or what area hurts, with the idea of healing it at the same time, no matter their time zone, for 5 minutes. I think it was like for 5 days. It was a lot of fives. So, and he wanted me to do that, and I said this lady had like an online site, and she was starting to charge for her talks, and it's just, I said, Steve, this is prayer. I said, I have people praying for me for years for healing. But I said, don't you remember when God said that while on earth I shall know earthly pain, and that this pain was in essence good for me, was going to teach me and lead me on, lead me forth in ways that I wouldn't otherwise. And I said, arachnoiditis, it takes God to heal. I said, don't you understand what those people are doing? In essence, is praying. But they are people who don't believe in prayer. The ones that he had read about, this group and this woman. She was making it as if it was some brand new breakthrough, and miracles would happen and healings, and she had testimonials of people. And I said, I have probably 50 people praying for me, or who have prayed for me off and on, and with focus and with intent. Very holy people, like my spiritual Da. So my parents, they're praying for me still in heaven. So I said, this is just a gimmick. And I said, I've accepted. I've moved on. And I said, I appreciate the prayers, but if they can't even call it what it is, and she's trying to bilk people for it and make it seem like it's some revolutionary thing that she's come across that she can heal people that way. Uh, and he goes, oh, he says, you're right. He says, I didn't see that in it, He says, well, it is prayer, isn't it? I said, yes, except they're not addressing God. They're just doing a prayer that is of, I guess, my spine, if they were to do it. It's, if they're not going to admit it's prayer, if they don't believe in prayer, but they think they have the power through concentrating 5 minutes every day for 5 days, 5 different people, I said, it's goofy. I said, I don't need to be healed in other ways, but I said, let's move on. I have pain. I have constant pain, and it progresses. This is arachnoiditis. And I said, it's part of what my life is intended. And so there's greater things to think about and to do and to pray for. Pray for others, pray for my mind or my psyche, or for me to love God more, or to do God's will always, or to love other people with more pure love, God's kind of love, that kind of stuff. I said, that's where it's at for me, and probably would be for anyone, except, our needs, our everyday needs. God wants us to pray for those and to pray for other people, but he had, even then, was so wanting to heal, physically heal, be a healer in that sense. When some people in this life aren't going to be, well, we have to die of something sometime, don't we? So otherwise we would, have 5 people for 5 minutes for 5 days, focus on whatever it is as we get older and older, and expect then we'll just live forever based on people healing us all the time, So he caught on and he backed off of that. He felt sort of foolish, and it's okay. But when I called him yesterday, because I got concerned, I hadn't heard from him, and I realized, I'm so paranoid with this septic syndrome that I'm assuming that I'm insulting everyone. That's sort of been my latest thing. If I don't hear from somebody or whatever, that I'm insulting them. Well, it's a ploy of the devil, because then yesterday I realized something's happened to him. He might be sick or something's wrong. It's not, he wouldn't be the type that I would insult. He doesn't have that kind of pride. To be insulted means you have pride. It's a sure sign of pride to be insulted. People who are humble aren't insulted. They're understanding, they're forgiving, and they don't have that kind of pride or sense of self that gets hurt. They love others so much that they doesn't get to them like that. So I called, and he was in a session, and he says, well, I'm in a session, but he says, well, are you okay? Because, I usually don't call like that, and I rarely call him. I wait for him to call me when he has time. He's talking to people all the time. So I said, no, I'm concerned about you. Are you all right? Something wrong? And he says, well, I'll call you this afternoon. Well, sure enough, one of his patients had a test for heart plaque in the arteries, and they found it. And I think she was a younger woman. He's up there, but you wouldn't know it. He's just sharp and still doing his clients. And I think he didn't mention a thing about the super patch, because it's even been, Amazon got rid of it. because it's a known fraud. These pain patches. Now there's several with different names. Pain reliever, the super patch, the pain patch, claiming all kinds of things of transcending or crossing the neurologic brain body barrier and all this stuff. It's a fraud. And this one was something that they could, they made like a neurological imprint that could even help people feel peaceful or victorious or different emotions even. And it was just all a gimmick that was so hyped, and they had these phony testimonials online, as it turned out, where people claiming all these things, miraculous this and that, that it was found out to be a scam. And the marketing way of it, that no other companies have tested this, and that's the same of a patch that one of our viewers heard about and was thinking about trying and thought I might want to, but no, I researched it. That one's the same way, a scam. And they set up I forget what it's called, some kind of marketing, consumer marketing plan or something, where people can put in $1,000 to be able to sell them with promises of all kinds of profits. It's sort of a pyramid kind of a system also in that regard. And they have all these testings done and research. It's only from their own company. They've not let any other entities test it. So, because it's a bogus thing. They're making fist over hand money off of it. So, and plus with people putting in $1,000 to get the privilege to sell it, with the idea that they're going to make lots of money. So it just, and heal people. That was his Dr. H's thing. He wanted to heal people. He has so much compassion, and he wasn't satisfied with the tremendous gifts God gave him. Genuine gifts from God. Not a phony scam patch, So he didn't bring that up at all. I think he found out, what it was and dropped it. But he's got heart trouble. So he had this patient said, you should get one of these tests. So he did. There was nothing in their family. He has 2 brothers, so there's 3 sons. And he told his brothers to get tested, and one of them's in the clear. The other one has it, but it's way early. So doesn't have to have his arteries cleaned out. But Steve he could have died at any moment and didn't know it. He had 2 arteries fully blocked. One they couldn't get out. It was in too much of a precarious location. So he thought oh no, I'm going to lose my memory or whatever part of the brain that it supposedly went to. I didn't know, and he didn't, but he explained that the doctor said there are 4 arteries that feed the brain, get blood to the brain. So they got one of them that was blocked cleared. And I think they put a balloon or something in this other one, but couldn't get it cleared totally. So, or maybe at all. But the doctor assured you've got 3 other vessels that are fully flowing, and they're feeding your brain. So it's not like one vessel goes to one part of the brain. His brain will be covered. That was his concern. I asked him, because I'll talk about in another video, but the fear or the sense of helplessness or hopelessness. And he says, it's very sobering. He said, I felt very sobered, and it was shocking. He says, I had never thought anything of it. And right then, when he said that, I thought I was having a deja vu of having had a dream a couple or 3 years ago, probably 3, maybe 4 even, in which I was shown in the dream that he had heart troubles and that he needed to go get it checked. by a heart specialist, a cardiologist, and that I called him the next morning after I woke up to tell him about the dream. And this came to mind. And I thought, am I having a deja vu? Because I hadn't remembered it in all that time. And it was hazy still, it was, and I thought, is this part of my post-septic syndrome? Where, you get goofy thoughts and things. And so I asked him, I said, do you remember 2 or 3, 4 years ago, me calling you and telling you that, asking you about your heart because I'd had a dream about all this? And he says, yeah, I do. And he says, but he says, but it's the wrong time period, because now's the time. And I said, well, at least we know that on the other side and in God's realm, and I think guardian angels were assisting. My guardian angel was probably assisting with that dream. I don't know. LS, one of our viewers, would know something like that, I think, because she's very evolved mystic. I am a sort of a flunky. I think I'm a disappointment to God in that, but he doesn't care as long as I love him and I'm trying and communicate with him and listen to him as best I can. I'm not a good listener, evidently, because I think I miss a lot of things that he would be more open with me, but I'm trying. I'm trying all the time. I'm trying more and more. And that's what God wants. That's what he wants. So I'm not in trouble. I'm just saying this as an example that God is very merciful. But he wants us to love him and love others and love ourselves even. But with his kind of love, to attain to unconditional love, it takes trying, it takes effort, it takes reminding, and it takes practice. So I that's why I was telling Dr. H, his first name's Steve, that I said, at least we know how fluid everything is. That was evidently then a forewarning. But after we hung up, I thought, well, if he had gone then, it wasn't a forewarning, but I wasn't secure enough with the dream to tell him, you need to go to a doctor and get checked. See, so I have to learn. I need to learn. And then to be more forceful, more open, and say to people, I think you need to go to a doctor. Get your heart checked, or whatever the case would be. But it is amazing how our angels help us, and God arranges. And our angels are also always with us, helping, guiding. And I think even in the night, that's why I would love if LS would, I hope she sometime looks at this and might answer or give some information to us. Do our angels help facilitate in dreams, to give messages, to help us, to guide, to show us the way forward? I'm sort of feeling like they do. I had that dream 3 years ago or so, that if I had said to Dr. H, I think you need to, if I'd had the confidence in God and confidence in my angel, what was being shown me in that dream, to say, I think you really need to go and get this checked by a heart doctor, or even your GP, get some heart tests. See, then Dr. H could have had this handled sooner. Maybe, if he would or if he wouldn't. A lot of people don't go for dreams. I think he does, but I don't know if he would have with me. It's also the person bearing the message may not be so believable, or people will think, well, oh, that's just so and so, and not take it seriously. But I don't think I took it seriously then to push him on with a suggestion of going to a doctor over it. But it was amazing. He remembered it with that dream and me calling him. I lived here then. I remember that. Now it's coming back more, but initially yesterday when it came to me, while we were talking, I thought I was having a psychological what's called a deja vu. But no, so it's fascinating, and it's another area of growth for us, and of praising God, but of communicating with God, and a way that God communicates with us through dreams and signaling us and premonitions and even little daytime urges or thoughts or seeing something. But see, the devil has been messing with me with too much, sucking up in myself of thinking that I had offended people. There's been a few. The sprinkler man, who also has pain. I would text him and like 3 or 4 times and say, please text back. I just wanted him to put me on his list to do sprinkler blowouts this month of October coming up. And I didn't hear back, and we'd had such a good conversation when we finally met, because he saved the day when I was in ICU in the hospital, getting that broken line fixed. That's how I lost some trees, but I could have lost a whole lot more. And plants. So, because my sprinklers weren't working for about 3 very hot days and nights. So, I thought, well, I must have offended him, that he isn't responding. He didn't seem like that kind of man, or maybe he resented something that I said or did, but then it dawned on me also, well, maybe something's happened to him. Well, even a car accident or something. But I got a text from him yesterday also. See, I think my guardian angel helps us when we have questions or wondering, or we're heading down a wrong path that the devil has us with a ring in the nose pulling us along. Like me always thinking I do get paranoid from the symptoms, but then that lends to me thinking that I'm the one at fault always. Recently, I'm always feeling that now, that I've done something wrong, and that's why somebody hasn't contacted. It's really a type of insidious pride or a sense of self, that you think it's you that did something, even if it's a bad thing. So it's the devil tempts us or tricks us into that mindset. It's a bad one to be in. We want to be humble and be open to the possibility that we could have done something, but not just automatically assume it. Because I couldn't think of anything. I could with Dr. H. I thought of, well, I upset him over, but he's not that type of person to be upset over me, pointing out his gift is in this other area that is a greater healing for people than a physical healing even. Anyway, sure enough, this sprinkler man, his pain has gotten the better of him. And he now needs to have his neck has gotten bad. He kept having to work, and he did heavy work. He didn't have qualifications for less heavy than doing his sprinkler work and his maintenance work, which is very active and heavy, digging and the whole bit with the sprinkler repair. and heavy equipment to do the blowing out of the sprinkler lines. So he said no, he couldn't do it. He had somebody else, and he talked about all that he's going through. So that's God was tapping me, my angel on this side and God on this side and in my heart. I need to write back to him and talk about suffering and build him up to through God and upon God to get through the suffering, to keep his love going. He has a wife, a second wife, and a younger family, a second family. And so I know he just pushed and pushed himself to provide for them in the only job he knew. So he's got a neck fusion surgery coming up and has been in bad pain shape. So hasn't been able to work. He said, I don't know, was it 2 months now or something? So God bless him. But I'm realizing our guardian angels are instrumental for so many things in our daily lives, helping us make connections and understanding and solving problems. Our guardian angels are given to us by God, so it's ultimately God doing it all. But the guardian angel is his emissary for each of us, has a guardian angel for each of us, who does additional messages. Angel means messenger. And so I was given the message from this man, and it was a long text describing all he's going through. So he's suffering big time. And he wouldn't write that much if he didn't want conversation back, because we had a wonderful conversation here. That's why when we met, because he called me then. He didn't know I had pain until my daughter mentioned finally that why I was in the hospital and things. And so he called because he said, I have pain too. And what happened with the pain meds and the ER doctors freaking out. And he gets some of that, but he's never had trouble in the ER. But his wife's already gone with him, so always been with him to help. And so there's that now. See, my guardian angel is looking out for me, and I don't recognize. I should always be thanking the guardian angel for things and noticing. It's like if a friend came over and said, you realize that your truck windows are down and it's raining, or it's supposed to rain soon, and something like that. Thank you. But it's the same, with our awareness, to be more open and aware of our guardian angel's help and guidance, and then to offer gratitude. And so I'm going to include in my nightly prayer with the dogs. They're not long prayers, but I've started with more regularity, praying for conversions of various people that I know, and for their goodness, and to have good lives and wonderful lives in the Lord, and according to God's will, what he wants for them, etc. And I'll start including then people who need healing of any type. And then also I'm going to have a lot of praise, because it's very important. But even rather than just at night, I want to become more aware of souls, my guardian angel and other souls that God has for us, sends to help us learn things, like he sent St. Luke and St. John the Baptist and Teresa of Avila in 1988, and himself came. So to be aware that God transcends time, space, all is fluid in God's realm. It's all present and all available according to God's will and His wishes, and we are to get ourselves aligned with His will and His wishes. Then it is like a blocked highway, cleared, and free-flowing traffic back and forth, effortless. To use a very material, temporal image, metaphor, I guess that would be a simile, because I used like a. When you use like or as, it's a simile. If you just say it is a, or it is equivalent to, then it's a metaphor. Well, no, I think if you put in equivalent to, then it makes it a simile. Anyway, details of grammar, but and punctuation, or what, I guess it would be usage, word usage. But it's important to be aware of God in all His manifestations, in all His gifts, and in all of the beings, that His spiritual beings, that He allows and wants to help us, if we but become aware and develop a relationship with other souls. We talk about the thin veil. There's but a thin veil that divides us, that keeps us from seeing all. And it can become thinner and thinner, or it can become more obscured, but that depends on us. The more we become resistant, or busy, or disbelieving, then the thicker the veil, or even seems like no veil at all. Then it seems like two different worlds. We aren't even aware. We don't even think in terms of it, of anything else other than this world. That's sort of the extreme of spiritual ignorance, and or spiritual not being educated spiritually at all. But we all are. All Christians know, and we have to get to the point where we grasp it wasn't just back then for them. It wasn't just for St. Joseph and all the different people in the Old and New Testament. This is for all of us in any time. It requires what first? Love. Love. And desire. Desire for God and for His will. And then God determines. Sometimes God leaves us feeling alone for a long, long time, as if there's no help coming. Or there might be help, but it's so disguised we don't recognize it, because we may get used to just certain ways that God has helped, or our angel has helped us. And it's not necessary to see your angel. Just go in faith. Just know you have one. And your angel will present him or herself if God wills it, and if it's necessary. Unless, I think, sees her angel and as a child, because she recognized these things as a child. Same with Padre Pio. And I didn't. I had no background in it. I didn't know about angels even, not till I became Catholic. And even then, I doubted, because these old women, I was younger then. I was, I think, 44, and people like in their 70s, these women would talk about their guardian angel by name. So I talk about how God had to prove it to me, and He did so in a very clever and marvelous way, miraculous way, that I never again had any doubt, but that I do have a guardian angel, and even gave me the name for the angel. Because I thought, oh, these ladies, they just make up the names. They're just making up the names. And yes, they are, but it's from instinct, I think. They have some sense and say it. They're not just willy-nilly, like thinking up a dog name or something. It's a actuality. Or maybe the angel implants the thought, or God does, into them, or the suggestion, or knows, that they'll get it right. But it's a name I would never have chosen. So it was extra ironic, and it has a meaning to it. Meaning that reflects a big portion of what the angel would be doing in my life to help me. So if you can find that video, do. Otherwise, I suppose I should retell my guardian angel story on here sometime soon. Maybe later today. It's involved, so, I have to keep these shorter. People don't have time for my yip-yap. Anyway, thank you to all our guardian angels. God bless your guardian angel and mine.